My topic today is about multi-site, and there is many myths about the whole case. So that's why I was like, I have so much like knowledge with that. Why just I like spring this onto people? So the first thing, what the hell is this thing called multi-site? So multi-site is very easy explained. Multiple instances on WordPress on one installation, as you can see there. So it's a very easy. There's very easy benefits and counter with that. So the benefits with using multi-site is you have a central update when you have central updates for themes and plugins, and you have the possibility of using global content. So you could have one site that is a content repository where you pull stuff from all the sites, which benefits you if you have a few hundred sites. You can just like have content flying around, which you have not, which is harder if you have several different sites where you need to like have a SaaS connecting that and giving it content. And the benefit is like to have central user access. So if you onboard someone new, and you just imagine you have 10 different sites, and you onboard a new colleague to your network of like your installations of WordPress, you need to get them to every single site and get them the right access. With multi-site is just one installation where you add them to and give them access to the different sites. And the benefit is if you need to offboard them, yeah, it's one site. You just go there, like offboard them, and they are gone on every site. The downside, the drawbacks with that is, as you can see, the first thing stays the same. It's you have a central update on themes and plugins. It means if one update fails on a site, it fails on all sites. So if you have like a bad auto update, which rarely happens, it will be causing trouble with all the sites. The plugins itself, we will come later to that. Plugins can have issues with that. Like plugin can have issues with multi-site, but we go into more detail later with that. And again, as I said, with the plugin updates, there could be a single point of failure. So if for some reason the web server of your multi-site goes down, all sites connected to that will be affected. Who is using multi-site? Was not a question. Thank you for raising your hands. It's more the universities are one of the very easy ways of like using multi-site, because they have like departments in the universities, and the departments can be themselves, like the physics department or the chemical department can be their own owner of the site, while the ownership of the whole university has access to that and can determine what plugins and themes can be used there, so they be in the corporate schemes and plugins. So that's why that's like a useful normal application of multi-site. The other one is WordPress.com. That's like basically one big multi-site with a few million sites. There's also a different flavor in there, but it's like that's the biggest solution people have out there for WordPress for multi-site. And one cautious tale to everybody who is an agency or works in an agency, and the agency has this brilliant idea to host all the client data on one multi-site, and have like every client has their own site, and then you can easily spin up new sites and have a very productive business. If you want to get data out of a multi-site, that causes you extra work. So the best is to simply stay as like one brand on a multi-site, and not like simply try to beat WordPress.com by being your own WordPress.com. So if you want to compete with them, they have free hosting. Just go there. Just like host with them, and don't try to compete with them on like as an agency to simply have clients hosted on one big multi-site. If you want to see more examples of multi-site, there is the showcase with the flavor of multi-site. So you can simply go there. It's not that much sites because everybody holds to themselves what they do, but because it's the enterprise world and everybody is very like not that much sharing of successful multi-site installations, but that's one way to go there. The other thing is where WordPress is where multi-site is used is brand management. Brand management is if you just like think about Nike, and you are now the owner of the whole global Nike brand. First, congratulations. Now you have everywhere in the world, there is a different like Nike website, a Japanese one, a Spanish one, whatever. So if you now being in charge of that, again, congratulations, you have a problem with yourself going like, okay, where exactly is my brand used? Like if they have single sites, like if a marketing campaign in Brazil spins up a new subsite for Nike for like 1 month, as you know from the WordPress hosting business, hosting plans normally are annually. So the website will probably live on for a few another months, and most likely nobody will care about updates, as we know that from some hosting interfaces. So you as the owner of like the brand, you are then going like, okay, where are all the branding of my domains happening? And then if you do a rebrand, how can you implement them into all the sites if you don't even know them? So that's why Multisite is a very good solution to that, by simply having all the brands on one network. And then you can have different sites and you can spin up like marketing websites that just stay on for 2 months. And after 2 months, you archive them and it's all done. So that's a very good example for using Multisite in a brand business. And the benefit is like, you know, everywhere in your company, in the big brands, you know exactly what domains and what URLs using your branding all over the world. Now let's talk about some myths we heard over the years with Multisite. So one of the myths we heard was Multisite is inflexible. So that means that some people were like, yeah, but you are forced to have one theme. And the benefit of Multisite is you can have different themes. You can have a child theme for a landing page that like is just up there for 1 month. You can have plugins that you need in certain regions legally, just activate that on these certain regions. So you easily have control over that. And the core feature since ages is you just can have domains. I know it's a weird concept of having a domain for a branding website, but if you have like independent sites or you're using like a multilingual solution that is like based on single site, then you have the problem that you have like other URL parts that you cannot configure, but you cannot throw a completely different domain at content. And with Multisite, that's a core feature you can simply use. The other myth we encountered were Multisite is unstable. And my answer to that is this. I'm not sure like how many of you know how old this theme is. The answer is 2010. So Multisite was merged with WordPress Core 2010, which is like, it's currently, as we speak, serving millions of visits globally. About the like capability of plugins. So we define plugins in several categories. So we have the plugins that are non-compatible. It's very easy. Just imagine a pig running across a keyboard back and forth, and that's the code. And so you have code that is not compatible with WordPress API. It's just some code string together, and it miraculously works. That's the code that can break on a Multisite because it's not really prepared for the APIs. It just doesn't care about the APIs. So in a Multisite network, it can break at any moment. So that's just like crappy code. The other ones are passively compatible. That means they are written using the APIs. Awesome. And they don't break because they are not aware of Multisite, but they are so good written that they are simply do not break. And the other ones are actively compatible with Multisite. That means when you activate them in a Multisite network, they recognize they are in a Multisite network and then tell you, oh, by the way, you can also configure me for all the sites in a different place in the network admin. So that, for example, backup plugins do this because they go like, yeah, you don't need to like do backups on all sites. You can just like do a global backup on all the multi-sites. So that's just different. Try to avoid the first ones. The other one is Multisite is too complicated. Totally get that. I'm like very blind what is like Multisite complexity because I do it since 2008. So So that's why for me it's just like it's a normal way. What are you having a problem with? It's just the single site is the weird one. So the easiest way to ramp up your skills on multi-site is you need to unlearn workflows. So if you're doing something all the time with your different sites you're having, and then you're going to a multi-site and you're going like, but it's now more complicated, is you need to like learn to really tap into the possibilities that multi-site gives you, and need to like unlearn and like revisit some of your workflows and maybe like do them differently with multi-site. The other one is a very, very important thing. As I told you, multi-site is around since WordPress 3.0. That means all the problems you encounter along the way were solved a decade ago. 2015, 17, somewhere is a blog post out that solves a problem that you stumble into. That's why I really, really encourage you to, if you bump into something, just research. There's probably a plugin or an additional thing out there that already solved your problem. And don't be discouraged if something is, content is a little bit old for multi-site. The API is very, very stable. And that means like that something that was good like 2020, 2018 should be very compatible right now. So there is some things that were changed, but the majority of the stuff is like almost still the same. And the last one is WP-CLI. If you currently managing WordPress sites and you're not using WP-CLI and you were waiting for the call and for a sign to study WP-CLI, this right now is this call. You need to look into WP-CLI if you're managing WordPress, whatever what, because it really helps you fastly managing things without clicking in the backend. It's yes, shell can be and the console can be frightening at some places. Get over it. You want to also use it for AI, so that's why you already getting more easier with CLI. So please also use WP-CLI if you touch WordPress and manage it. And as some examples, what you can do with WP-CLI is an example where you can because it's all bash and you can put content, like you can put pipes into each other. So you could simply loop through some sites, get the URLs from that, and then throw this and deactivate this plugin and at all the sites. When you need to now, like, if just imagine you have a multi-site, it's 50 or 100, like let's say 100 sites, and you have this one plugin on like 25, and you want to deactivate that, but it was not network activated. Then you go to, oh, you need to go to all the sites. No, you just write this little line here and done. So, and the other one is the same-ish way, and you're adding a user role to a person without like setting foot into the WordPress backend. So if you need a sign for like really looking into WP-CLI, that's it. There's WordPress TV. There's so much content out there for WP-CLI. You have more content that you can imagine to watch on this topic. So just like give it a go. Going back to myths, we heard multi-site is slow, which is like, I totally get where people are coming from. So you have people that throw like 50 sites of a multi-site on one server and then go like, but it's just one installation. How hard can it be? And they do not factor in, they now have like 50 installations on the server. And they're going like, but like it was fast before when we throwed all the site on it. So estimate the cost or like the resources you need for all the sites. Do a little bit like off, like let's say 20% less because it's a multi-site, but like factor in that you have like 50 sites on the server. The next one is object caching. So if you currently do not use object caching because your hosting company is hindering you or you have no idea what object caching is, you want to activate that. Object caching means that you can save like the menu that WordPress is generating on the front end, that it throws away after the execution of the site is gone, and it will save that in memory. And then when it next time loads a menu and the user clicks the next site, it loads that from memory, which is like, that's an obvious thing. Why is not everybody having that? Like some people don't have it. That's why a tip for that. And the last one is a very simple one. Just don't run slow code. Just very easy. Like that's if you already get rid of the pick running forward and backward on the keyboard, you're already in a good direction. But the better way is to really have not slow code. And I don't talk about fast code. I don't run slow code. How you will find out you have slow code. So there's tools and there's also like possibilities of like, if you want to see how a big website or big websites are run, that's a way to not run slow code by simply having so much compute power that you solve like the most problems of scaling. Such an environment, that's WordPress VIP, they run, for example, the NASA website, and your website cannot have more traffic than the NASA website when they have pictures of the moon. So that's why it's a very, very easy way to simply, if you want to imagine how a big server could look like and big setup, that's it. And in terms of like getting rid of slow code, there's a thing called New Relic. Someone is running around here from the Relic, you want to speak with him. It's a tool that really pinpoints down where in your application something is taking too long. And it can pinpoint you to the function, to the line in the function that is like taking up too much time. It's very expensive, but it's worth every penny if you really want to care about your application, because it simply pinpoints directly to the problem. So if you plan to have more than 100 sites, if you plan already, you're going like, yeah, with like 500 websites, I will run up in my WordPress. There is a solution for that, because as I told you, everything was already solved for multi-site. There is a thing called Luda Crowd DB, which gives you the possibility to set up different databases. So you can simply split up your installation, your multi-site installation into different databases. And you can even then nitty-gritty go down and configure where certain sites will live on which database server. So you can really have like sites that need so much traffic or like have so much visits. You can move them out of your current database server and move into the dedicated database server. That is like a battle-proofed solution out there. And even if you do not like the name of the plugin, there's like 3 other plugins that do the same. So it's because it's a solved problem in the WordPress multi-site world. And even if you going then nitty-gritty going like, but yeah, what if I have a different network and I want to have a database server that is like only being like read from if the user is in that database center with their website? Yeah, that's a documentation example by the plugin. So that's so boring that they already have it in the documentation, because like, yeah, if you want that, knock yourself out. Now the bonus question. What is the difference between a network-wide activated plugin and the MU plugins folder? People who never saw this talk, you are all not allowed to answer. What is your guess? Like I want to have 2 guesses. What do you think is the difference between these 2 things? Because if you already know multi-site, then it's basically the same. If you put a plugin in the network, if you network activate it, or you put it in the MU plugins folder, it's basically activated everywhere. What is the difference between these 2 things? Yeah. You see them in a different area, but it's the same thing. Second guess. Also good idea. There's a thing called, I call it multi-site. So you could have multiple networks in one installation. So when you install multi-site in a WordPress site, you then can have the possibility of simply adding another network to that, because there's a database table called WP-Sites or WP-Site, and there's an entry of 1. That's your network. But if you can do 2, 3, 4, like 10, 20, you can have so many networks, and it's basically like multi-networks. That means you can have a different site in a completely different network, and that's why network-wide activated plugins are only active in this network. And the other benefit is, just like was merged with 3.0 to point that out, is the possibility you can give someone super admin rights in a network, but they have no access in the other network. That's a default feature that is just in WordPress since like 2010 that not that much people know. And so that's why I created like this, because I call it, it's more easier to remember. And it's simply a way to use it, but there's no interface for that. There's no interface in the WordPress backend to simply configure that. Yeah, there's a plugin called Multi-Networks by the guy who also wrote the Luda Crowd DB thing. And this will simply give you an admin interface for like moving sites between multi-sites and setting up new multi-sites. But you also, you can then like delete this plugin because your multi-site is still there. It's just an interface for the database, for the MU sites and for the MU blocks tables to simply give you an easier interface to create those. So it's like, I just really recommend that. And if you have questions about multi-site, yeah, I'm here to answer all of them. Now, simply how to activate. Very simple, there's documentation for that, so we skip this. Then you have network setup and some rewrites, and there's also a cooler way to do this. Yeah, it's one line in multi-site, in the WP-CLI. And also very important, don't keep bugs to yourself. Like there is a track for WordPress where you simply can go like, oh, I have found something. Again, after you researched, if you have really a problem or you need to unlearn a workflow, or if you need to like install a plugin, after you find that and you find really a bug, please post them into the track so that we can like try to solve them. And let's simply recap, what did we learn? WordPress Multisite is scalable and already available right now. You already have it, you just need to activate that. And also like find me and ask me about multisite questions. That's it, thank you.